But really, I want to know, did the squirrel talk to the alligator today? I mean, I know the alligator was looking for his what? Oh, we're live. Oh, well, hey there, everybody. Gather around, boys and girls, children of all ages. Gather around your nice, warm laptop or your phone, your mobile device. Uncle Brian's going to be sharing some stories with you. It's going to look a little like this. This is the first episode, so it may be a little rocky, but stay with me. I guarantee it'll be worth it. The purposes of this blog, video journal, discussion, whatever you want to call it, is an opportunity for me to share something humorous, irreverent, irrelevant, comical, heartbreaking, vulnerable, raw experiences from this wonderful, vast journey of 38 3/4 years that I've been around the sun on this rock called Earth. So, hope you got your cup of tea, son and girls and boys, because it's going to be a good one. Pull up the seat and get comfy because it's going to be a good story. Well, this particular story takes us back a few years. I'm going to readjust the cameras to get some better lighting here. And I had a desire I currently live, and then at the time lived in the state of Michigan, in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And desired to move to Colorado like any Midwest boy would want to go to the mountains. And I went there, checked it out, validated it, met some cool guys. I'm like, you know what, this is what I want to do. How am I going to get there? Well, I already had a friend living in Colorado, in the Denver area at the time. And she's like, you know what, Brian, check this out. I got a place. I actually have an extra room that I could put you up in, let you stay for a few days or a month and just get settled. Or if it works out, you can stay with us. It'd be great. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, she was a friend from Michigan. And she's like, tell you what, Brian, I'll be in town. I'll bring my Jeep. I'm driving from Denver. I'll drive my Jeep. And you'll get yourself a U-Haul trailer, hook it up to the Jeep, and I'll drive it back to Colorado for you. And then when you get here, you get here. I'm like, that's awesome. And I didn't even ask her. And she just like, I'll do it for you. I was like, that's great. Awesome. Look at this. The universe providing. Anyway, so she shows up. And as you know, any great epic has its ups and downs. Foreshadowing. We go to the U-Haul place to load up my trailer with the empty trailer to her Jeep. Well, guess what? The wiring or something weird, the guy's like, well, guess what? Your wiring isn't working and your signals aren't working. And so legally, I can't let you leave because it's illegal to drive with a trailer that the lights aren't working on it. And I'm like, no. And we spent hours trying to find the right adapter to make the thing work. And it didn't work. And I'm like, my life is over. It's not supposed to move to Colorado and all these things, right? Well, anyway, my friend's like, check this out. How about this? This isn't working. And I'm thinking, great, and I've spent thousands of dollars on a U-Haul truck to drive it across Colorado, and I don't have this money, and blah, 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 blah. Well, again, without me even thinking, she's like, hey, Brian, guess what? I got a big, suburban truck with a camper shell on the whole thing. She goes, I'm going to go back to Colorado, pick up that thing. I'll drive all the way back out here to Michigan, and we'll load all your stuff in my truck and whatever fits in your car, and we'll do a great caravan together. We'll do a fun road trip across America to Colorado. And I'm like, really? And again, I didn't solicit this. This was all her idea. And my partner at the time, she's like, why are you making her do this? I'm like, I'm not making her do anything. She completely volunteered this all on her own. And I'm like, how is this happening, right? Clearly the universe wants me to get to freaking Colorado. So I'm like, all right, we're going to go to Colorado. Anyway, so she loads up. She drives all the way back, and we load all my stuff up. We have a great breakfast, and I say goodbye. And we have this epic road trip, 2-day road trip to Colorado, where at the largest, if you guys haven't been there, it's worth it. The largest truck stop in America is in Iowa, I believe, on 80. And it's this really just epic place. It's one of my favorite stops to go. If you've never been, I highly recommend it. But anyway, we get there, right? There's a major plains storm coming through where literally they shut down the gas pumps. There's this epic wind and sheets curtains of rain coming down, like the building is thunderous and it's like shaking the entire building. It was crazy. And in all of that, I completely forgot that my Zephyr cat, I had a little baby kitten, not baby kitten, she was 6 at the time, that was in the car breaking her shit out. She was it took her about 20 minutes to like reveal herself after we got back on the road. But anyway, that night we ended up sleeping outside of a random like church. I don't know what it was, some like large Christian place. We like boondocked basically on some country road in Kansas. It was fun. Anyway, I get to Colorado and I live my life there, and life is happy and life is grand. Well, anyway, as you know, every journey has a return. And in this particular case, it was a few years later. And the reason I'm sharing this full epic with you is there's a moral story, kids. Moral of the story happening at the end of the story. Stay tuned and you'll find out the end of the story. The story concludes a few years later. Brian, this one, is starting to feel a little homesick, starting to want to return to the mitten, however we look at it. Anyway, and not wanting to create story and just sitting with it. Well, it just so happened that I happened to be returning that year in October for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And so I was like, we'll just see how it goes. I'll get my feet on the actual dirt and hug some trees and see what happens. Well, anyway, I get there. And as I'm flying, it's an overcast flight. And I look down as we're approaching our landing. I gotta buckle up and put your tray tables in the upright and locked positions. And as we're coming down for approach, a break in the clouds happens. We go below the clouds, and all of a sudden I see Michigan in autumn. Epic, right? Trees full of color. And I just start weeping. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know why I'm crying, but I am. And then we get in the airport and I start seeing pillows that say home underneath it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm crying. And it was just like my body, I'm like, yes, come back here. I'm like, and I fought it, of course. And I had a number of experiences. Anyway, return to Colorado. And I'm hiking and for those who are playing the home game and know Colorado, in Golden, Colorado, there's a mountain called South Table Mesa or South Table Mountain. I was climbing that and I get up there and I just feel arid and I feel dry and I feel cracked and I feel anxious and I feel, and I'm sitting there and I'm about to run back down. And I said, let me just sit up here. So I just take it all in. And I'm like, yeah, this is not working anymore. I used to love this. And it's not, the aridity was fantastic. Oh, I tell you what, driving into Denver that day, moving from Michigan, driving into the arid mountain air was such a reprieve from the dense, oppressive Michigan humidity. Let me tell you that. So anyway, I'm still denying. I'm like, no, I really shouldn't go. And then a little bit of a side note, I studied with with the Kriyavans, right? So part of the yogic community, studied with them. And one day they were doing like an initiation. So I went in as an initiated Kriyavan. I went in to sit in the energy of the initiation happening. I'm just sitting there meditating. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, boys and girls, kid you not. Literally, it felt like someone was touching my chest and the back of my chest, like a loved one. No actual person, like basically God, these ascended masters, and whispered in my ear, return to your homeland, you're needed there, there's work for you. And I'm like, again, right? And so I'm like, I can't deny it. I'm in a spiritual space. And I literally had God whisper in my ear, go home. So I'm like, okay. And this was in November. Anyway, so starting to prepare my epic journey to return to the homeland of Zimitten. And I come home in January to work a few things I typically work at, the Ann Arbor Folk Festival being one of them, which was fantastic. I love doing that. Plenty of stories from that alone, which on a later episode. And I get here and my now current roommate and at the time friend said, hey, do you have a place for you and your kitty to land when you arrive in Michigan? whenever you get here. I said, no. He goes, well, I just bought this condo and it's got that extra room over there. And so you're more than welcome. In fact, I invite you, please, to come stay with me for at least a month and try it out. No obligation, come try it out, at least land here, right? And if it works, then you can stay. Well, turns out it worked. Anyway, so I'm like, cool, again, unsolicited help. I love it. Anyway, return to Colorado. And as I'm returning to Colorado, I'm thinking, man, I just need a few $1,000s to kind of get me through the last bit here, right? So I can afford to get home. Anyway, this dude calls me, bring, hey, Brian, I need to hire you as a coach because, I have these few things I'm sorting out right now. And I just really need to hire you as a coach for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something like that. And he goes, whatever it costs, just let me know, I'll pay you. And I have no problem paying you. Just let me know when to show up and what it's going to cost and we'll do it. And I'm like, absolutely. And it just so happened I actually had a 6-week coaching plan. So I told him all the expenses and whatever, and we made it happen, right? And I'm like, I didn't even solicit that guy, but he just called me. Heck yeah, right? Anyway, I get to Colorado. This is not even close to being done. I get back to Colorado and my roommate's like, hey, Brian, when were you planning on returning to Michigan? I mean, he's like, I don't want to rush you out. I'm not kicking you out. I'm like, why, Scott? What's going on? He's like, well, while you were gone, I had unintentionally finding a replacement for your room, and he can move him whenever you want. And he's not in a hurry because he's in a comfortable place, but he wants to live here. This is some guy that my roommate Scott happened to know as a friend, colleague, 10 years previously hiking in the mountains of Mongolia, and they hadn't seen each other since. That's kind of weird. So anyway, so now all of a sudden, someone's picking up my sublease, which wasn't even looking for. I have a place to move to. And God's being like, hey, you're ready to go, son, keep it going. So I'm like, okay, guess I'm gonna go. Anyway, as the story starts to wrap, there's a fun little twist. I was about to leave. And like any other person, I wanted to get the best out of living in Colorado, all the majesty there. This is February, March. Actually, it was March of 2020. Foreshadowing. And I was wanting to go to the mountains for a few days, and check out some stuff, things I've never seen before because the Rocky Mountains are epically beautiful. Anyway, the Saturday before I was about to go and also sign out of my rental agreement, in the middle of the night, I get these downloads. I don't know if any of you do these, but I get like these messages at 2 a.m. from God, 3 a.m. from God, telling me what to do sometimes. Well, this particular occurrence, it was like, don't go. Like, he's like, I command you, like, you get in your car and you go straight home, mister. Don't you go into the mountains or any of that ninny penny stuff. And I'm like, and it sounded like a stern parent. I'm like, okay, I don't understand, but okay. And next morning is a Sunday. My roommate comes home. Him and his girlfriend had just been skiing up in the mountains where I was about to go. And apparently the Rona had just and that they blacklisted, the state of Colorado blacklisted that whole area. And my roommate and his girlfriend had to go quarantine for a few days. And I'm like, well, I guess that blows the lid off my plan to go visit those places. So that next week, I met up with my landlord, signed the paperwork, got back my deposit, hopped in my car and returned to Michigan. Had an epic 2-day return trip with my hep cat, Zephyr cat. She's a beautiful road trip kitty. And God bless her soul, she's no longer with me. Regardless, returned to Michigan on March 18th. March 19th through 20th, Michigan shut down, right? And so literally like the window in which I was orchestrated to return was like threading a needle, so to speak, right? And all this to say, I am here in my home state, celebrating being home and being here. And what's crazy is this, and this is the moral of the story, kids. If you want to have a moral of the story and you're still listening, thank you for still listening. Here is the moral of the story. The moral of the story is If something is truly meant to happen, it's going to happen. Are you listening to your intuition? Are you listening to the messages around you, or listening to the messages that your body is giving you? Your guides, your angels, whatever you want to call them. Shiva, Krishna, Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, whoever, right? Aunt Maud. Who's telling you? Are you listening, right? And if you are truly listening, I truly believe that we are supported and guided and blessed and protected in this world. And I don't even mean to go off on a spiritual, religious rant, but where I'm going with this is things are going to happen. Magical things happen in life if we're paying attention and we're listening and we're responding to the things that are coming around us. Because, and this is for another story, kids, there's a time that happens when Brian, in a previous journey, didn't listen to his guides, did not listen to his intuition, his gut instinct, whatever you want to call it, and a lot of bad things happened. So with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the wonderful episode 1 of Morning Story Time with Brian. It may happen in the afternoon, but regardless, this is story time with Brian. So thank you for listening. Thank you for appreciating this wonderful epic of part of my life, one of my life, and more to come. I'm probably going to be doing these a few days a week. So if you really enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and so that way you can get updates to the videos that I offer. So yay, happy time, story time with Brian, story time with Brian, story time with Brian. Ooh, ooh, yeah. All right. All right, kids, get out there, have a good day, be well, don't do anything crazy, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.